40% of Americans can't cover a $400 emergency with cash. Now, we, along with the rest of the world, we're holding our breaths for another recession. My next guests are a couple who found some financial peace. After paying off their debt in 3 years, they weathered cancer and now a pandemic with 99 problems, but money ain't one of them.
Well, I think you're being generous.
91 problems.
Yeah.
They even began to teach a class on finances, which is where my husband and I met them. Today, we're going to talk about the elephant now in the room. How? Because that's what everyone wants to know. And pull back the curtain on what it's really like to live financially peaceful. Practical, resilient, still married after quarantine.
True, accurate.
Brent Angela Lane, thanks for coming.
Hey.
Hello.
Thank you, Meredith.
I was trying to think back of when we all met, and it's like been 3 or 4 years since Garrett and I were in debt. And it seems so long ago, but it also seems like yesterday. And so I was thinking about like what that felt like and how did we get in all that debt. And I thought that'd be a good place to start is tell us where you guys were at when right before you decided, right before the fire got lit. Where were y'all at?
Well, we started by starting a business, and we did. I think we had an amazing opportunity that we just kept willing to get better and better. But while we were willing it to try to work, we were putting on credit cards to get our way there. And I say we, but really it was in this case mostly me. And Angela was a saint for more or less not divorcing me at the time. We really, you go through a lot of things. When you're young, you start believing that you can do it. And I wanted to be an entrepreneur and was working really hard. I had a client that got seized by the FTC. I was holding $250,000 in advertising I couldn't back out of. And that translated into what ultimately would be a personal debt of about $80,000.
Holy smokes.
And, because at that point in the game, you just get numb to debt. What's it matter if you put another venti latte on there? What's it matter if...
Or salaries.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, I was super pumped when I graduated from college. The good folks at whatever credit card company it was sent me a $25,000 platinum card because I was a graduate and ready for that kind of responsibility. And I was. And I was trying really hard to make it so that the employees that I'd brought on were going to get paid. But that also was the dumbest thing ever. Instead of being responsible and being like, you know what, I had to stop digging the hole of debt, I just kept putting it on, hoping it would get better. And unless you take an action where you change that up and you make it so that you stop digging and you stop letting it control you and you start controlling it, you're going to keep going into the hole of debt. And that's what we found we kept doing. When we moved to Pensacola and we were sitting on this amazing amount of debt that we really weren't even actually...
It was amazing. It was great.
I was just going to say,
the best.
amazing makes it sound like it was a good time, but boy, it's so weighty.
And that's hard on a marriage too, because, somebody comes home with a shopping bag and you're like, aren't we on the same team? Why would you buy that? You know what we're doing. And then she's looking at me going, why did you have another latte? So, those are things that we found as a married couple young is hard. And it took a minute for us to turn that into a positive thing for us. And we really did it through a Dave Ramsey class.
Yeah. It's an overwhelming feeling. It's kind of, I think you dialed into how a lot of people feel. It's a goal. Yeah, it's a goal. It's a goal that keeps on goaling because you don't ever meet it. So you keep on putting it on your resolutions list, on your goal poster, but you feel overwhelmed. You don't know where to start. And
it's funny when you go into premarital counseling, if you do that, and how many of us do not actually do that, you kind of pay a cursory glance to each other's finances on how to interact with each other. And we find that most of the people that come through the class that we teach now have never made a budget before, even though they think they have.
Yeah.
And are not at all habitual about it. And that's really, I think, one of the biggest things is you have to be on a team working together for your finances, whether you're in debt or maybe you have no debt at all. But if you're not on the same team, it becomes an enormous challenge it's impossible to do by oneself.
We didn't really realize we weren't working together. We just were both kind of surviving. And until it clicked because of the class and put us on the same team, it made things so much easier. We were just undoing good. We had no plan. We didn't know where our money was going. We would, I remember when it was time for back to school, we would, I'd ask him, hey, I need to go back to school shopping. What should I do? And he'd be like, well, the usual, just do 500 on, the card and we'll figure it out. I mean,
if the words when it comes to finances is we'll figure it out, like you are immediately in trouble.
Yes. And I have found myself saying that a lot in the past, and we'll figure it out later. We'll sort through it later. And later, it just keeps you up at night. It's what you think about when you go to bed, and it's what you think about when you wake up. So something has to change. So what lit the fire for you guys to make the change?
It was really just because our church happened to be opening up a Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University course that they were encouraging, as many of the members to go through as they could. And
hey, I have a question. How excited were you to take that class?
Yes. To be very, I wasn't, because I'm a loan officer. I've been in mortgage for 30 years.
Yeah.
And so I was very much, as he mentioned, it was his business and a lot of his debt. And so I didn't feel I really needed someone to tell me what to do with my money. Mm-hmm. I felt like we just really didn't have enough money, and that was really the problem. And I figured eventually we'd get out of debt. But I was worried. I just thought it was going to be too restrictive. I thought we'd have a lot of fights. I just didn't see it going well. But we went to that first class, and you suddenly feel like you're empowered. You hear how it's going to get done, and you hear the testimonies, and you find yourself thinking, gosh, is this something we could do? And I probably was not too on board even once we got to week 2. And then it just hit because I started seeing the results. So, the foundation for the plan, what helps bring you on track is really the budget. It's having a written plan for your monthly money, which we had never previously had. We didn't write it down. We sort of, you got your mortgage and you got, Meemaw's birthday coming up or whatever. All that's just sort
Dang
of
it, Meemaw, making us bust the budget.
Yeah. But writing it down, sitting together at that kitchen table, and sure, it's not easy. It is not easy at first.
The first couple of times that you sit down to write a budget with somebody else, you're going to have probably a fight. And that's okay. It does help you figure out that you might be a little wonked out on, whether or not, if you're worried about spending $1,000 a month on going out to dinner, and that's I can't give that up. Yeah. And your partner is like, well, I only need $40. You guys have some differences that you're going to have to talk about. And I use that example because it's actually a pretty legit example of how many times have we run into couples who have very different opinions on what they envision for their entertainment budget or whatever. And so this is a process of talking together and coming to compromise.
Yeah.
If you don't have any money left over for, savings, for instance, then you got to reallocate it. Yeah. We had a thing, the best example that we gave, and we gave it during your class too, is we were spending $1,200 a month on groceries for a family of 5. And it took a minute for us to figure out that might not be okay. That might be a little high. We weren't paying attention. There are ways that you can apply and make your money work for you. And Angela is a megastar when it comes to finding out what the cycle of sales are, why that's important, why, she would tell you, I don't want a coupon, but now is a coupon champ. We will never let a CVS $10 plus coupons go to waste.
Well, and I think us sitting down to do that budget helped us figure out where our money was going.
Yeah. So you could even call it a spending plan. Mm-hmm. I think some people hate that word, budget.
Budget? Oh, I know. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't want to hear it. Or have anyone tell me I had to do it. But as soon as we did, I looked at the shopping differently, like he said.
Yep.
I used to be someone that would just go do a weekly shopping trip and just go through the aisles grabbing what I thought we wanted or needed, and there was no plan for that either. But what I switched was looking through the weekly ads, looking at the sales, looking at those buy one, get one free, and making a list and sticking to it and finding coupons in addition to those sale items. So we dropped our budget from $1,200 to $600 for a family of 5.
That's amazing. That's good.
And on our best month, it was like $400.
That's really good.
Now, here's a pro tip, though. Remember, the cycle of sales is important, and understand what that actually means. If a coupon comes out on the first week of July, it may not be on sale in that store until the third week of July. If you know where to go find that coupon from the first week of July, you are doubling down on your savings. So that is a really important factor for folks to just understand. And it only takes, if you get in and do it for 6 months, you're going to kind of get on board with how that works and why different grocery items go on sale at certain times. And you'll plan on doing that going forward.
So you're using the coupon on top of the sale. And can we also talk about BOGO for a minute?
Yeah.
Because buy one, get one free, Publix, we don't want to see another hot dog a day in our life. Okay? Like,
I know.
we are over hot dog land. So was there something that you did, an item that you had considered a staple during your debt-free process that you never want to see again now that you're past that?
Was there something I made you guys eat all the time? I don't recall there being that, but BOGOs were definitely, and still to this day, on Wednesday when the ad comes out, I make my grocery list based on BOGOs.
Me too.
I only write down what is BOGO because I only want to buy it when it's at the price I want to pay for it, which is at its lowest point. Yeah, I don't think we had anything that I made you guys sick of, unless
That's good. Or it's just been a while.
Yeah, it's been, ramen is always a fave.
Actually, one of my listeners, Emily Dillon, wants to know, what's your favorite ramen recipe?
None.
Well, actually, I mean, any pasta meal is so easy because you're getting your sauce and your pasta and your Parmesan cheese. All of those things go BOGO. You just have to grab them when they're at that price and have them in your cupboards for when you need them.
Yeah.
So that's what I make sure I do. If there's an item in the ad, maybe I don't even need it that week. Maybe I've got to. But if it's hitting that week, I'm still making sure I'm getting it and putting it in my pantry so that I don't run out.
That's good. That's good. So it's the organization.
Yes. Yeah. I never want to go and, it pains me to pay full price for something. If I don't have what I need for a meal, I will literally do anything to avoid going and paying full price for it.
Yeah. I'll remember that if I see you going through a dumpster. I'll be like, look away, folks, look away. Which actually leads me to my next question from another listener, Eldon. He wants to know, when you were going through the process of paying off $80,000 in 3 years, did you go scorched earth or did you create extra income?
Both. I think you got to do both. You have to be responsible about it. I mean, Dave Ramsey describes it as have gazelle-like intensity. Mm-hmm. And so you have got to look for ways. Like if you are working job number 1 and you need to earn some extra cash, go get job number 2. And we live in a land where you can now go shop for people and make good money. You can drive Uber on weekends. You can there's the ways that you can find yourself extra cash to pay off debt is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And
look at your own home too.
Yeah.
I mean, eBay, Facebook Marketplace.
True.
I mean, everybody has extra
Have
items.
a garage sale.
Yep.
So y'all did both.
Oh,
We did. We had a lot of garage sales.
Yeah, I mean, we would look for items that, for us, Angela and I do some voice work on the side. We do a lot of phone greetings. And that just happens to be a niche thing that we fell into. And in doing those, that extra income meant a lot. It meant us paying medical bills with just having a little bit of extra, an extra cushion, and it was very effective. When we moved to Pensacola, she had the opportunity to stay home with our youngest son, and so having that side hustle was very important. It actually meant the difference between having the clothing money,
yes,
or making sure the 4 walls were up, and so. I would definitely tell you, man, get a hustle. get a side hustle and go, the faster you can go. If you play it like a game when you're doing what Dave calls a debt snowball, where you take all your debts and you put them out from least to most, and then you can start lining those through, it becomes like a game, and you start feeling the snowball pick up intensity, and you start ramping up yourself, and you're like, man, how I'll have 6 more garage sales. I'm going to start asking my friends if they want to have some garage sales on consignment. I mean, you can get into it, and you get super pumped about it, and all of a sudden you're watching these debts go away, and you're rolling into the next debt, and then you're watching this debt you never thought you'd get out of go away, and then all of a sudden you're paid off a $10,000 credit card, and by that time, you're telling your friends how amazing this actual budgeting thing is, and you have just got this opportunity to change your life. And the other side of changing your life is if you don't have any debt, you can change someone else's life, because if somebody needs a meal, you're not going, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to get mine.
Yeah. And it gives you resiliency
100%.
Against crisis, which the world is in crisis right now. And it gave y'all resiliency when you were going through your breast cancer treatment. So talk to me about that. We all have these I'm glad I did moments and I wish I had moments.
Absolutely. And you don't know cancer is going to come into your life. But because we had gone through this program, because we were on the same team, because we were financially sound and had an emergency fund and had done the lessons on insurance, when breast cancer knocked on our door, we were prepared, and we didn't have to worry about all of those other issues. We got to just be a team and focus on getting on the other side of it. We weren't fighting about money. We weren't worried about how we were going to pay the medical bills. Mm-hmm. We had the right insurance. We had a fund that was going to take care of any deductibles that we had, and it was very. It gave us a lot of peace of mind, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Understanding that insurance is risk mitigation against the wealth that you're building up is kind of important, right? And so a lot of times we find when we're talking to people who are getting into everybody kind of wants to be rich or wealthy or whatever, and they really don't know what that means, you know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with having wealth. It does mean you can change your community. It means you can change others' lives. But you can't do that if you haven't built up a system of protecting what you have. In fact, if you don't have the right insurance, you get into a car accident, you can lose everything you have. Mm-hmm. So what insurance really is risk mitigation. That applies to not just your car insurance, that applies to your homeowner's insurance, that applies to your health insurance. Mm-hmm. You are mitigating the risk. And one of the things that Dave Ramsey teaches is the HSA plan, which was something that it took us a minute in our life cycles, right? So you go through life cycles when you start off and you're, oh my gosh, I'm in this class, and this is the first time you've ever been in this class. You're just like, I need a budget, and I need to start seeing some debt disappear.
And not kill my spouse.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's that. There right. Yes. But by the time you get through that, you go a couple years down the road, and now you're starting to think about, how do I mitigate this risk? Well, that's where we all of a sudden made this change to our insurance. And so our deductible was high. It cost us between $5,000 and $10,000 for a deductible. But if you can imagine a breast cancer, prognosis, mitigation, surgery, all of that stuff, that's about $200,000. Well, if you're sitting on a co-insurance with 20% co-insurance, that's still like $40,000 you're going to have to come out of pocket, and you're still paying on. Because we'd made the choice, we'd made the move, we had the emergency plan that we'd built up. Yes, we have to rebuild the emergency plan, but I don't have a co-insurance problem with $40,000.
Exactly.
It's critically important.
That's so true. And that's what I was shocked about the class, is that it wasn't just about reducing your debt. It wasn't a scolding. It was actually something I really felt I should have learned in high school, which brings me to my next listener question. She said, what 3 things, this is Mary Charbonneau, would you advise parents to teach children and teens in effort to avoid debt in the first place?
Well, what Rachel Cruz says, Dave Ramsey's daughter, is that more is caught than taught. So much of what the parents need to do is be on the same page and sit down and do that budget and use coupons and teach their children how to make responsible choices.
Our oldest daughter swore up and down she would never buy makeup on a coupon, ever. Just gave us the nose in the air. And we put Callie through Dave Ramsey.
You just called her out.
Well,
Poor thing.
Hey, proud of you because of what you're doing right now. But she went through this class, and by the time she was done, suddenly she was cutting her own coupons to find her own makeup, and it was empowering for her. And we did not raise any of our kids to have a credit card. They were all told, if you want it, you got to pay for it in cash. To this day, it is still an argument with our youngest about why mom and dad just don't kick down for a brand new phone or whatever. We just don't, because I want you to buy, I want you to feel it.
So he's at that where he hasn't seen that yet.
And it is counterculture. I mean, if we're totally honest, and this might even be a separate chat for another day, but not living without a credit score, because that's the side effect of not having any debt. And not any interaction with debt is after about 6 months you got a zero, and they're like, hey, you alive? Doot doot. Hello. And it's very different than what is out there. So I could definitely see how a high schooler would have trouble with that. And that reminds me about student loans, because that was another question that came up, and that's a point of conversation with a lot of people in their mid-30s, 40s who have got kids in high school. So how do you tackle that? Because I feel like that's one of those very acceptable forms of debt that we've come to learn about.
Hopefully culture's changing, though. I think we're beginning to see how damaging having all of that debt is for our youth.
Honestly, parents got to have some uncomfortable conversations. Just because your kid wants to go out of state to go to school does not mean they should go out of state to go out of school. UWF is a great school. Pensacola State College is a great school. You can have them live at home and we got both of our daughters graduated with 100% zero debt and no student loans. But you know what? They had to work it, and we were on it. Our daughter Hope was a brand ambassador for Pensacola State College. That paid for her entire first year of school plus books. I mean, you got to apply for scholarships. For me, making sure that our kids all had appropriate ACTs to meet the Florida medallion level Bright Futures was important. That's like anywhere from 50% to 75% coverage and scholarship. I mean, I paid for tutoring because it was worth thousands of dollars. And so as a parent, those are some things that you have to do. If your kid's like, oh man, I'm going to Alabama, but Alabama's out of state tuition, I mean, it's a great school, but if you don't live there and your parents aren't swimming in debt, why would you absorb thousands of dollars worth of debt only so you can attempt to get an entry-level job and then watch 30% of your income go to school for decades? And it's never forgivable. Yeah. It's never forgivable. People don't understand, like, oh my gosh, hey, the student loans are going to be forgiven. They're never going to be forgiven.
How is that not like the biggest obvious scheme in the world? I'm like, I do agree with you, Angela. I think that our culture is changing a little bit about that. We're looking for different things. We're thinking more outside the box. And that's why I loved having this class, which I took twice with my husband. So
you guys did great.
Well, the first time we were just early married, we had $43,000 in debt, and then it was like cousin decided he was getting married in the Dominican Republic and bought our ticket and said, so just pay us back. And we were like, oh, sorry, I'm calling you out, Jason. But this is the show of calling people out, apparently. But and we got a little distracted, and there was those other insurance lessons. I knew that we needed those and they were valuable, and I wanted to circle back. And I just really enjoyed that in-person class format now. Now with, COVID and social distancing, that might look a little bit different, but you said that there probably is a class coming up, both virtually available and perhaps in person if people aren't listening from Pensacola.
Dave Ramsey is actually... They have come up with Ramsey Plus, which is, it encompasses, it's kind of the umbrella of everything. And they have wonderful technology available to anyone wherever they are in their apps, their Every Dollar app, and you can do their classes online, virtually. from any device. We have always thought that personal, much like you really liked being in that class and being accountable and having your small group table where you guys could all share experiences is important.
Which was delightfully unawkward, by the way, because one of the perceptions that I had is that it was going to be awkward church group situation where people were like crying, and I don't know where I developed this movie in my head about how it would be, but to me it was going to be incredibly awkward, incredible oversharing, super putting people on the spot. Not at all. No one asked us any personal questions. It was actually not even encouraged. It was just like, you watched the video, y'all would facilitate to make sure everyone understood. We did our little homework with our spouse or with our money partner. You didn't have to be married to do it, and it was great. It was so great. So as we wrap up, are there any thoughts that you want to leave with viewers about your personal transformation with your relationship with money or otherwise? Sorry. Do you have any thoughts that you want to leave us with?
Can you restate? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I got so distracted. I was like, is she going to keep going?
Yeah. This is not the first time we've done that, so we just go with the flow here. Okay. Is there any thoughts that you want to leave us with about money management?
I can't recommend it enough. What keeps popping into my head is the saying, no discipline at the time is pleasant. It's not necessarily easy. You're doing something you're not used to doing. It takes a little bit of time. It needs to become habit, but the benefit, the freedom, the peace that you have on the other side of it is so worth it. I just really promise that it is. It's very nice for us to know each month where we're going to be and what we have. Do we have to make changes? Yes. Like I said, sometimes you forget that, there's a wedding coming up or a birthday coming up or something that you haven't written into that budget, and you change it. It's okay. It's not the end of the world, but there's nothing like being able to plan the vacations that we take and know that they're not on a credit card anymore. Know that we are paying for them up front. You enjoy it so much more.
You do.
When you look back at those photos, you're not going, oh yeah, wow, that took us
$20,000 at Disney.
Yeah, right.
It's peaceful. How about you? What do you think?
I think I would go to the end of this, right? So what this means for me is that you have the ability to be a life changer when it happens, and you may never know. I mean. And you won't know till you get there, but you can touch somebody's life in a way that they may not know is coming. You're going to run into people who are at the end of their rope for one reason or another, and you're going to have the opportunity to have felt that because you're trying to get out of debt. You're at the end of your rope too.
Yep.
When somebody says, I really need help, I'm going to launch this GoFundMe because I got to pay for my, gas bill. When you can be the person that calls the gas company and goes, let me take care of this for 4 months while this person gets back on their feet, whether they know you did it or not, it's the opportunity to change somebody's life. You have no idea how that's going to affect them. And I look at that as if I'm not buried in debt, then I have this wonderful opportunity, guilt-free, to give the way God intends for me to give. And I have this opportunity to go into somebody's life and completely do something for them that they probably never thought could happen. I love the opportunity to have somebody come to our class and be like, I don't know what happened. Somebody just paid for my bill. Because that happens all the time.
It does happen
That's
all
the
time.
example of the class.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I think that's perfect thought to end on. If you want to always be asking for the miracle, keep doing what you're doing. But if you want to be a miracle, then you got to make some changes.
Love it. I may borrow that for the class.
You can borrow it all you want. Well, that's a wrap, guys. You did awesome.
Thank you very much. That was great.